Hello, episode 2. Today we're going to be talking about wins and losses in AEW mattering. We're going to be talking about the number one contendership and how that's calculated. And we're going to be talking about sports analytics and all the different things that is going to be involved with calculating that and how that's going to affect how matches are decided in terms of who wins and who loses and how that's going to affect storylines and stuff. And that third part, that sports analytics, I think that is the revolutionary. That's the catalyst for the revolution that I think AEW will bring. And when you get into it, you kind of realize how and why. But the first one I want to talk about is wins and losses. Now, I like the fact of wins and losses mattering. I totally love that. I'm 100% against it. A lot from what I understand in wrestling up to this point, for the vast, almost exclusive majority, almost totally actually, wrestlers may get over with the fans, and then the management want to push them, and they give them a match or two matches, and then they're in a match for the championship, while you've got other guys who have like a way better record than them, way more wins than them, but they're not really like cheered by the fans as much. So, but they may be way more technically gifted and stuff like that, but they don't get tag title matches and that, so they're out of the picture. That I don't agree with. These guys who the promotions get behind up until this point, the management say, okay, well, we want to push this guy because he's a really hot face, or he's a really hot heel right now, and we're going to push his merchandise, and we're going to push him, we're going to give him a good push, and he's the person who's going to be going for the heavyweight title for the next few months or the next 6 months. It's going to be involved around him and stuff. And AEW, from what I can make out, has come along and say, no, that's bullshit. Wins and losses matter. If somebody has a matches of 20 wins and 5 losses, and then Brian Cage from Impact Wrestling, just using an example, could be anybody, comes in and fights that guy and wins. He's got, he win that guy. That guy did that much to get up to that point, and he lost to Brian Cage, so Brian Cage beat that point. No, that's stupid. That guy has 20 wins and 5 losses, and Brian Cage just beat him. Okay, so we've got one match, one win. 20 wins and 5 losses, one win. Like, it's not fair at all. It's not fair. So they need to have the records more comparable before they can say, okay, well, you know what? Brian Cage is going to go for the heavyweight title. Because if he had a record of like 15 wins and 3 losses, and this guy had 20 wins and 5 losses, or roughly that, people could say, well, he wasn't in as many matches, but it's close, and they're both in AEW, whatever, right? People would be able to say that. It would be a lot easier to accept. But wins and losses mattering is good. It's fair because your time in and your hours and works of service matters, and help prevent you from being leapfrogged by a guy who only does like quarter of the matches. That's fine, but it creates a problem where new guys coming in will never be able to catch up to these guys. So these guys are like, yeah, everything I've done, yeah, I've got the seniority, you can't leapfrog me because I've done so much, you got to do what I did. But these new guys will be like, well, fuck, you've been here for like 2 years more than me, you've got like 300 wins more than me or some shit, I'm never going to fucking catch up to you, this is bullshit, right? To me, that's a problem. And that problem could be solved with one of two approaches. One approach I see them doing now, and I really, man, I hope they don't do this. I hope this is not their solution for it. Like, is the 6-man tag team matches, the triple threat tag team matches, and the triple threat singles matches, and the fatal 4-way singles matches, and all this stuff. I fucking hate that. I can't stand it. 6-man tag matches is stupid. Because to me, a win in a 6-man tag team match shouldn't count towards your singles record because it's not a singles match, it's a tag match. But it shouldn't fucking count towards your tag record either because only 2 people could win the AEW World Tag Team Championship belts. Christopher Daniels, just before Fyter Fest, was in a video on all being the elite, and he said, I'm a former heavyweight champion. He was in Ring of Honor, so I'm going to go and go for that myself. He had a match against Shima. Shima won. I wanted Shima to win that match, although Christopher Daniels is good too. Yeah, it should to. For singles matches and tag matches. 6-man tag matches shouldn't count towards your singles record, because it's a tag match. It shouldn't fucking count towards your tag. Shouldn't count towards your singles. It shouldn't fucking count towards your tag record either, because only 2 people can hold the belt. SCU's Christopher Daniels had to go into the singles division because of that same damn thing. So, to me, 6-man tag matches are throwaway matches. And that's another thing I want to talk about, wins and losses mattering. You've got the tag division and you've got the single division. And from what I can understand is that a tag match or a single match both gets you a win, of course. But it seems like they only have one column for the win. They don't have tag team wins and singles wins. They just have one column for the wins. To me, that's stupid. That's fucking stupid. I don't agree with that at all. There should be a wins and losses in the tag division, a wins and losses in the singles division, and the 2 records should be kept separate. But anyway, that's another rant and side tangent. Getting back to the wins and losses mattering and older guys having way more than younger guys, you know what I mean? And no younger guys having to build up their matches so it's comparable to the older guys. However, they're doing that with 6-man tags and fatal 4-ways and all this shit, right? That's what I was talking about. I hate that. I fucking hate that. Because number one, the tag, like the 6-man tags doesn't count as a singles or a tag win in my opinion. And the other reason why I hate that is because I don't know what guys can do. You don't know what a wrestler can do until they're in a singles competition. Plain Jane match. No DQs or a chain to each other match or like coffin match or hardcore match or any of this bullshit. Just a single plain Jane one-on-one match. That is when you get to have a chance to see what a wrestler can truly do. That is when you have an idea on what promise they have in going forward. But with all the sports analytics in place, but we'll get about that later because right now we're talking about wins and losses. You don't know what a guy can do. In all these tag matches, all these triple threats, and all these fatal 4-ways, you don't know what they can do at all. Like Joey Janela, he was in a hardcore match with John Moxley. I don't know what he can do. They were just go and watch that match. Go and watch Joey Janela versus John Moxley, Fyter Fest. It was streamed for free in the United States on Bleacher Report Live. Go and watch that match and come back and tell me on a technical level of in-ring ability with wrestling, what can Joey Janela do? Or John Moxley for that matter. I don't know. They didn't fucking do anything in that match that gave me an idea on what they could do as a wrestler. They gave me an idea on what they could do in that match as a hardcore wrestler, and there's a huge difference. I don't like hardcore personally. I find it stupid. But both those guys, I don't know what they can do. Jungle Boy, he's been in the ring twice. I don't have a friggin' clue what he can do. I mean, there was that triple threat tag match between the Dark Order, Angelico, and Jack Evans, who are awesome, in my opinion. I really hope they get a push at some point. But again, that is affected by the sports analytics. We'll get into that later. And Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. That's the thing. Like, I got a little bit of an idea on what Jungle Boy can do, and Luchasaurus, they better put him in the singles division. Like, I don't understand why guys can't be involved in both. They may have separate records, which would be the ideal, but even if they don't, whatever. He needs to be in the singles division. But bulking up the people's wins and losses by doing these types of matches, it gets the records comparable to the older guys, so that way it's more fair when the younger guy gets ahead of him in the race for the number one contendership. Yes, but at the same time, there's so like Britt Baker. I don't feel like I can know what she can do. She was in a fatal 4-way, and then she was in a tag match. There's like, in both cases, there was 3 other people involved. I don't know what she can do in a match like that. There's Kylie Ray, same thing. Nyla Rose, same thing. I don't know what she can do. She's got that guillotine or some shit off the top ropes where she lands on the person's back who's like draped over the top ropes. That looks like it would hurt. That's a cool move, actually. I like that. But that's off the top of my head. That's all I know that she can do. You know, MJF is another good wrestler. I don't think he's getting the push he deserves right now. I don't see him. I don't see MJF scheduled for a match at All Out. Which I don't know why, but anyway, I don't know what MJF can do. Like, I could go on and on. I don't know what, like, at least I would say over half the people that we know so far. I don't have a clue what they can do, because they're in these matches with all these other people, and it's all tagging up and flipping off and landing on each other and shit. You don't really get to know on what their offensive strategy is and their execution is and their transitioning is. You don't really get a clear idea on what those things are like until they're in a singles match. And that's what I want. And that's what a lot of people want. And there's even discussions in the post-event interviews where people are asking them, like, we're seeing a lot of these specialty matches. We're seeing a lot of tag matches. When are we going to see more traditional one-on-one matches? That was asked by somebody. I think it was after Fyter Fest. Somebody asked that. I don't know. Anyway, and it's true. Like, people are going to start getting pissed off with this shit. I'm getting pissed off with this shit. Like, I am at a point now where I am starting to get discouraged because I think AEW is just going to have all these, like, 6-man tags and tag matches, and like they're not going to have singles matches. I mean, look at the very first pay-per-view. No, sorry, the very first TV episode, October 2nd, Washington Capital One Arena. They have a main event as a 6-man tag match. their very first tag match, that very first match they have for their TV that we knew about was a 6-man tag match. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's really, really annoying. I wish they wouldn't do that. Because there's going to be restores. Like, people are going to say, oh yeah, this guy, he's going to AEW. Oh, this guy, he's going to AEW. Did you see this guy? He's all elite now. And for me, I'm almost at the point now where I feel like saying, who gives a fuck? He's going to be in 6-man tags and triple threats all the time. And every now and then they might let him friggin' strut himself and be in a singles match, but you're never really going to see him for what he can do anyway, because there's all these other distractions. I'm actually on verge of saying that now, and we haven't even gotten to the TV episode yet, to their Wednesday Night Dynamite TV show hasn't even started yet, and I'm actually on the verge of saying I don't care. I don't give a fuck who's new to AEW anymore. They could say, oh, we've got Brian Cage. I'd be like, who gives a fuck? I don't care. Because everything they do is like, you know, buried up in singles and tags matches as it is anyway. So why does that matter? So I don't know. I don't know. There have to, I think, to like, in order to fix this problem, is to have, I think, seasons. I don't even think that tournaments are going to do it. Because the thing about tournaments is that if you keep the records going and going and going, and if there's not a reset point, then one team could have like 600 wins and 200 losses, and another team could come in brand new or only have like 100 wins under their belt, and then get a victory over the other experienced tag in the tournament, and that team internally behind the scenes could get pissed off saying, "This is AEW. You said wins and losses matter. You said sports analytics matter. We're really good. We're doing really awesome. These guys come in and beat us. What the fuck about wins and losses mattering? We've got 400 wins more than them, or we've got 100 wins more than them. This is bullshit." Backstage-wise, I can see that happening. If they want to treat it like a sport, it's going to come down to numbers. And if it comes down to numbers, there's going to be squabbles over other people advancing because they have less wins. And older guys there's going to have to be a reset button. There's going to have to be a reset point. If wins and losses matter, that means they're going to be recorded. If they're recorded, it can't keep. I can't keep continuing. There has to be a reset point. There has to be seasons. I think every year, All Out should have the people. The 4 titles are on the line, and then the number 1 contendership for those titles could be on the line at All Out. Men's heavyweight, women's heavyweight, men's tag, women's tag, and then the matches to decide the number 1 contendership for those titles at All Out. That would happen. So that way the Revolution, which is in November, the pay-per-view after All Out, that would be the one where the number 1 contenders from the previous season fight for the belt, right? And they become the heavyweight, and they become like the champions. And then, of course, the season could be like matches and like tournaments and stuff like that. And I think there would be another major tournament in February because they said they want 4, and February could they could like have from October to February as like that people are going through winning and losing and all that stuff, and then they decide the number 1 contender at or even maybe by Revolution they could decide the number 1 contender for the match who gets their title at the next pay-per-view, which would be in February, because that would be a good way to ensure that the title reigns are not too short. And then between Revolution and the pay-per-view in February, that will be determining who gets number 1 contendership for Double or Nothing, and then between the February pay-per-view and Double or Nothing, that could be deciding who gets number 1 contendership for All Out, and then from All Out to then from Double or Nothing to All Out, that could be determining who gets to be the next in line for the title at Revolution once the already determined number 1 contender who won at Double or Nothing gets their shot at the heavyweight title at All Out, right? To me, that would make sense. That would be good. There would be seasons. There would be a reset period. After All Out every year, it would snap back, and the people who won All Out would have a chance to go for their title at the pay-per-view in November, and they would have a chance to win the title at that point. And of course, like between All Out and that time, they could like have matches and tag matches and stuff like that. And I don't really know if that would count. That wouldn't really count towards their number 1 contendership or anything. But I think that would be part of having to accept if they did a system like that. You just accept the fact that once you get your number 1 contendership, you have it, you keep it, you're going to get your title shot at Revolution. Between now and then, you're still in matches and stuff, but it's going to be more like involved with more tag matches, and you're going to be like during that period you're going to be working with other indie promotions, like furthering our partnerships with them, right? That would be a good way to get some of their bigger guys to work with the independents for a certain amount of time each year during the TV season, because they can say, okay, this guy, he's got his heavyweight championship match at Revolution, and like between now and then, like what are we going to do with him, right? Like his wins won't matter realistically. I mean, they'll go into the pile, but it's reset after All Out every year anyway, and he's got his heavyweight championship match at the next pay-per-view. So, what are we gonna do? Those 3-month periods could be used to go into other promotions in other areas and wrestle with them. To me, that would be a really, really good way to entice other guys to come and work with them when those guys still want to be involved with other promotions to a degree, right? But to me, that has to happen. That has to happen. I don't see how they can get out of that. I don't see how they can avoid that, because if they keep the record going, then even the tournaments is not going to work out, because there's going to be squabbling in the back. People saying you're keeping, the wins and losses going and going and going, and we've got 200 more than them, and the person who has the most wins should get ahead. Isn't that the way it should be? And all this stuff. So they're going to have seasons and reset after every Raw. And whether they're going to me, it would be best to defend all the titles at All Out and determine the number one contenders next in line at All Out. Now, whether they're going to make the next title defense if title defenses are only going to happen at the pay-per-views, or if they're going to happen on the TV shows, whatever. That's AEW's thing. But the point is, there's going to have to be seasons. There's going to have to be a reset point. I don't see how tournaments is going to do it. So that's number one contender that we just talked about before. We talked about wins and losses and how you're going to bulk it up with all these stupid ass fucking matches in order to make it comparable to the older guys, so that way if this guy wins, people are more okay with it. Then we talked about the number one contender and the seasons and having things snap back to zero, or tournaments. But even tournaments might have a problem because of, accumulated wins and losses. There's going to have to be a snapback period. Now, the third thing we're going to talk about is sports analytics. Now, this is the point that Tony Khan talked about. Nobody talked about this. Nobody. Like, there might be a few small YouTube channels that have talked about this, perhaps, or have. But sports analytics, they're going to be appealing to the stat head. Tony Khan has said that himself. And he said they're going to analyze, execution, transitioning, damage to your opponents, damage to yourself, what they typically do to win a match, very technically monitored performances. So, a guy could be over with the crowd. The promotion could want to push him because he's a hot heel or he's a hot face, and they're going to take his merchandise and they want to push him. But another guy, he could be one example is Dean Malenko. He's great. I always loved him. When he was wrestling, his execution was great. His transitioning was great. He was straight to business, no guff, bullshit type of guy. His execution was great. His transitioning was great. His demeanor in the ring, how he carried himself, how he came to the ring, he kept that energy. He kept that appeal or that look or that impression about him. He kept that throughout the ring, so he can get into character really well. He didn't injure his opponents at all. Very, very, very little. Actually, I don't know of a single time that Dean Malenko actually ever injured an opponent in the ring. Maybe he did, but I've never heard of it. And same thing with him injuring himself, right? And he was called the man of 1,000 holds, so obviously he didn't win his matches the same every time. It wasn't repetition. Rob Van Dam became prone to. I remember people saying Rob Van Dam was good, but it's all the same. So how you do in each of those different columns within analysis is what determines who's going to win and who's going to lose. And I like that, because the guys who are busting their ass to stay in character and to perform really well are going to win and get ahead. But I think that makes it difficult on how storylines are going to be kept going, because if your technical ability in the ring is what determines who wins and loses, then storylines is going to be very hard to maintain. An example of that is Darby Allin versus Cody Rhodes at Fyter Fest. They fought to a draw. Now the draw was something that Jim Ross brought into effect, and I like it. I agree with it. But the thing is, if that was real, and let's just pretend that draw was actually real. It wasn't supposed to happen, but AEW says we know it can happen, and that's part of the system that we're making. You know, they might have had more matches booked for them and stuff, but the thing is, if that match was a legit draw, like if it wasn't expected to happen, then that just altered the course that Cody Rhodes is going to be taking, or at least it added another match into the mix that's going to be happening. It would have to. How could it not affect anything? That's the thing. Wins and losses and draws matter. So if you get a draw, then that's going to affect how things continue from there. So it's going to be interesting to see how storylines can advance as well. I agree with wins and losses mattering. I don't agree with the 6-man tags and the triple threats and the fatal 4-ways and all this fucking bullshit. I hate it. Like I said, over half the roster of who we've seen so far, like the 57 people we've seen so far, over half of them, well over half of them, I don't have a fucking clue what they can do in the ring. I don't know what they can do. I don't know. Somebody asked me, what can Rio do in the ring? I'd be like, I don't know. I've seen her do a couple of moves, but I don't really know how she is because I've never seen her in a one-on-one match with somebody else. There's always too much bullshit going on around her for me to give a good judgment on what her actual ability is. So they need to get away with that get away from that, man. They need seasons, even if they have tournaments. Backstage, there's going to be politics going on where people are going to be saying, well, wins and losses matter. We have 100 wins more than them, and now they're booked to win this tournament because they're more technically gifted than us, is what you're saying. And you know what I mean? You know what I mean? If AEW wants to be sports-based, and if they're saying all these numbers matter, then arguments like that is going to happen. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. They're going to have to make a reset period. There's going to have to be the record snap back to zero. Like any other sport, you go to their site, it goes to each team, and it shows their record in the previous season, and then it shows all the titles they might have won and stuff. AEW is going to have the same thing. They're going to have the same thing. Stats, yeah, they're going to have to keep all the records of all the previous seasons. And I think All Out should be the catalyst that snaps it back to zero after that. And one last kind of side tangent here, now that we talked about sports analytics and how that affects the storylines, one last side tangent I want to go on is the current number one contender for the men's world heavyweight championship, number one contenders is Chris Jericho and Hangman Page. Now, Hangman Page has 4 wins. He fought against Pac and won because of a DQ. Now, you can argue and say that counted, that didn't count. He did it for AEW. That's the point. He fought that match for AEW. Then there was Casino Battle Royale. He won that. And then at Fyter Fest, who did Hangman Page go against at Fyter Fest? I cannot remember. I'm sorry. Somebody could mention it in the comments. But I don't remember who he went against at Fyter Fest. But he won. He won. And then at Fight for the Fallen, he defeated Kip Sabian too. So he's got 4. Well, 3, arguably 4. Okay, forget the one against Pac, whatever. But still, he's got 3. Even if you discount the one, the Casino Battle Royale, he's got 2. He's got 2 matches, 1. And Chris Jericho, when he goes into All Out, will only have 1. Well, if you say, okay, Hangman Page got 3, 2 wins, and then the Casino Battle Royale, arguably 4 if you want to include Pac. And then he wins, and then he loses. I thought wins and losses matter. See, that's the thing. I think who has the most wins should be the champion. I mean, right now it's the very jumping off point, so that can't be the way it is. But to me, that means that Chris Jericho is going to have to wrestle more than all the other guys off the start. He's going to have to wrestle more than all the other guys off the start because everybody else that we know about has had at least 2 matches by now. Chris Jericho's only fought in 1. So when TV starts, if he's the World Heavyweight Champion, he's going to have to have more. He's going to have at least 2 matches quick, like off the start. Because otherwise he's going to always be wrestling with a win record less than the guys around him, and that's going to piss people off. The champion should have the most wins. Isn't that the way it is? So anyway, this is a lot better than the last video. Last video was 55 minutes. This is 30 minutes. So hopefully it'll get down there again a bit. But my channel is never going to be less than 20 minutes. I got to say, I like long videos. My channel is going to be 20 minutes. I'm going to try to make it between 20 minutes and a half hour. But I'm never going to have a video less than 20 minutes. So if you don't like long videos, then this is not the channel for you. And again, everything I say, I might like miss a cue or something. I might say like, oh yeah, Joey Janela and Jon Moxley, you know, they had a tag match at Fyter Fest. You know it's a hardcore match. I always try to make sure that I don't make those types of mistakes. Sometimes I might slip and say something small like that. Let me know in the comments. Call me a piece of shit when you're doing it. I don't know, or whatever. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and give a whole bunch of like references and footnotes and all this bullshit to all of the stuff I'm saying. Everybody uses Google these days. If you don't agree with anything I say in terms of who said what, facts and stuff, just go look it up. Think of this as a discussion between 2 friends. Would you tell your friend to pull out his phone and show you a link or a proof every single time he's talking to you about something in the conversation? No, you wouldn't. If you're curious about it, you'd go and look it up yourself. Think of me and you the same way.